Well, we can tell you that we have confirmed that Al Bruno is dead from 4 gunshot wounds he suffered here at about 9:15.
A hit gets put out on Al Bruno. It's given to you and carried out. Once he's taken out, did you feel any type of way?
Of course, like I felt, sad. I didn't want to do it. So I could tell you right now, I don't give a fuck what people out there that in my area think or do not think. I didn't want to kill Al Bruno. I could say, yeah, I did. Who cares? Yeah, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to become boss. All right, let's run with that. But that wasn't the truth. The truth is I was already a made guy and already in a position that I was reporting to New York. Joey Merlino was a cokehead. I know this firsthand from the Boston guys. When he used to come up, he was sniffing coke all the time. We all know everything that I say. He brings up fake stories about me, but you can Google the stuff about him. He's probably the biggest fraud. You know what they used to call him when I was in prison? All the South Boston, Charlestown, the Irish kids, the gangsters from the North End, East Boston. John Ratchet. He was considered a rat. He was around Whitey Bulger, the biggest informant ever in the history of organized crime. And you got this kid that's around him. He says he had no clue. It was a newspaper article that came out in 1989 saying Whitey Bulger was an informant. Right on the front page of the Boston Globe paper. Everybody in the prison system said that Whitey Bulger was an informant. You know, some guys were afraid to say it, but everybody that I was around, and I was a young kid, were all saying it. And they used to say that this kid, Ratchet, was Whitey's boy toy.
Prosecutors say they are all part of a gaming operation that was run by Anthony Arillotta.
From the South End syndicate, shadows cascade. Springfield nights where the groundwork's laid. Cigar smoke swirls, whispers in the shade. Deals inked in blood, American made. Bricks in the trunk, echoes of my trade. Moving weight, moonlight hits the blade. Cement shoes for the rats that betrayed. One phone call, they vanish. Plans well made. American made. Streets paved in fear. Every move sharp. Every whisper clear. From the 413 to the world displayed. Springfield's ghost. American made.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for checking out American Made. Today, I'm excited to welcome a returning guest to the channel. He's a man that wasn't just connected to that life, but someone that was operating at a high level as boss of the Springfield crew in the Genovese Crime Family. He wrote a book titled South End Syndicate. He has a really interesting story, and I'm glad to have him back on the channel to talk about it. My guest is Anthony Arillotta. Anthony, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, my friend? Good to see you again.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to have you here. So what's been going on, man? The last time we spoke on the channel, we discussed your book. I think you had launched a wine at that time. What are some of the things you've got going on that you've been busy with?
Yeah, so the book is going well. It's in the true crime whatever genre. It's doing it's up, I think, in the top 5. And we had a couple offers with screenplay guys coming in wanting to do buy the rights for the movie project, and also a couple for documentaries. So we're talking with them as far as the book goes. And I don't know if you can see behind me, I launched the Pazzo wine. So we have 3 different types of wine. It's called Pazzo, and you can buy it online. The link is in my Instagram, and we're moving it around. It's selling like crazy. We're getting it into casinos and restaurants, and the wine is unbelievable. You know, like, I drink wine, I know wine. I grew up in the wine business with my father. He was a wine grape distributor, and I was drinking the best throughout my whole life, and our wine is top quality.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Before we jump into your story, I just wanted to get your perspective on this. The other week, you and I happened to be on the phone at the same time that we found out about the Charlie Kirk assassination. I just wanted to get your perspective on that, because you actually are the one that told me about it. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I remember we were talking and I got texting that he got murdered. And yeah, I just think that Charlie Kirk, if you have you want to be decent in life, you want your kids to be something good in life, that he was he exemplified that. He was forget about the politics, when it goes left, right, and all that bullshit. He was just a good individual, and just spoke nothing but, truth to people, trying to get that message out there. You have to be very demonic to not like the dude, whether you're, and it's got nothing to do with the politics, if you believe in issues, he was there to, show up. He was very, I can't believe, the more and more now that he's dead, you see a lot more how educated this guy was. He knew about every single field. He had a guy on his show that was into economics, at one of the colleges. He rattled off like 7 of the top books. The kid didn't even know what he was talking about. And he's going to school, and, everything about the man was the only issue I had, with him and other people that I'm pro for, in that regards, as far as, where the world is going and everything, is this connection with Israel, because everybody is afraid to mention, and now you see it's exploding. Everybody's Israel. I mean, when it goes back to the CIA with the Kennedy assassination, they were declassified because the word Israel was mentioned so many times in it. Part of the ship that got attacked in the 60s, 9/11, so many other things that they're behind. And so, like, when, I didn't know his take on that stance, because that's where it all comes down to, is who's giving the orders to all these, the world, to the people. And Israel is leading that. And but now I find out that he was, they tried to give him money, he wouldn't take it. They tried to, so he would be more pro-Israel, because he was the #1 guy for the youth in the, never mind the country, the world, for the youth movement. So you see his memorial is today. It's record crowds. I think there's 80, 100,000 people there. It's a shame, what happened. I think there's a lot more to this kid is being the one that pulled the trigger, and I think there's a lot more involved in this. I think they wanted to take him out, and it was a coordinated effort with more people involved than just this weirdo kid, slow life, that did it. It's a shame. It's too bad. If you got any, listen, I lived a crazy bad life, you could say. I'm a murderer. I did all bad things, and but there's a sense of, in our life, we only hurt each other. Killer kills killer. But you have to be crazy if your values and beliefs don't align with what he believed in. It's just common sense. Like, if you want kids and you want your kids to, a boy wants to be a girl and you want to have that, then fine. That's your beliefs. And he was there just to, comment and make his points across. He let you talk. He gave you his, theory on what he thought about it. But I just think it's bad. It's a sad thing. And I think it's going to, whoever's behind it thought they were going to sign, I think it's going to wake up people even more now. And you're going to have the Charlie Kirks now, instead of, just one. And I think it's a bad tragedy. Horrible.
Yeah, I think so too, man. And I just wanted to get your take on that, because of your background and stuff. And we happened to be on the phone at the time that I found out about it. But let's move on to your story a little bit. In our first interview, we talked really in depth about your younger years. But for anyone new, can you just talk about, your background, your childhood, and kind of how you got involved and introduced to the Mafia?
I grew up in a, Springfield, Mass. It was heavily populated with Italians. Mafia was huge, especially, in the 60s, 70s. I was born in the 60s. So they were all around. Very powerful crime family, the Genovese crime family. And if you're Italian, you were you grew up in it. You knew who they were. And my father owned a fruit and produce store, biggest wine grape distributor, and they used to come into the store. I went to school down the South End. They were always around. My uncle was the driver for the boss, Sam Kafari, legendary Mafia boss, was at the Appalachian meetings in the 50s. And we just had a very serious Mafia organization in Western Mass, Springfield, Connecticut. And so that's how I ended up, being around them and growing up, being a wild kid, fighting all the time, and, getting caught with guns, shooting guns, getting in trouble, going to prison at a young age, 20 years old. I went to state prison, got a 5-year sentence for the a shooting case. So, that draws the Mafia to you. And, it's like, the baseball team, you're in the minors and they're looking for recruits to bring up to the pros. Well, the Mafia is looking for young guys like us. And I was exceptionally good at violence, but also making money. I had a huge crew of guys around me. I made millionaires out of most of them. We handled everything from legitimate businesses to everything that you could name on the street: sports, gambling, loan sharking, numbers, the casino games, anything that you could think of on this, drugs. So that's how I ended up, growing up with that. And then one day I was approached by a made member of the Mafia to be part of, them, to put me on record officially, Al Bruno. And so, they put me on record officially with them when I was released from prison in 1991. So that's how I got, formally involved with them.
Gotcha. Now, before you were really involved with that crew, you were huge in the marijuana business. We spoke before about how much money you were earning through marijuana. Is that what got you noticed by the mob guys?
No. So what got me noticed was the violence and the, being a full-blooded Italian. They knew my family. They knew, just growing up with them and being violent, going to prison at a young age for a shooting case. So that's what got me around them and knowing them about them. But when I came home from prison in 91, I just went crazy on the streets, and majority of my business was selling marijuana. And they consider that narcotics, drug dealing. And, but yeah, I just, the marijuana was so lucrative. I went from, buying pounds for 30 something hundred, making a couple hundred off it, to, just, selling it to all over. I was selling it to New York, to Boston, to Rhode Island, all throughout Connecticut, Western Mass, Central Mass. And yeah, I just really exploded on the marijuana business. It was a very lucrative business, made lots of money selling that.
Gotcha. Now, you just mentioned a second ago about going on record with the family. You end up getting raided by law enforcement, which causes you to get shelved by the family, as far as having any type of relationship with the Genovese crew. But you talk about that actually working to your benefit and allowing you to actually become more powerful. Can you talk about that time period?
So in 1996, I was proposed. Now I went from being formerly on record to be a proposed member, which is, when they open up the books, they want to make me as one of them, a brother, as a made member. Mm-hmm. And so in 96, Bruno proposed me, and my house got raided. I got caught with close to 40 pounds of marijuana, some ammunition. And, Bruno wanted to kill me over that because he was worried that they thought that New York bosses and his bosses thought that he might have been partnered up with me because I was reporting to him, which would make sense. But Bruno didn't have nothing to do with that. So, he told my friends, he told my father he was going to kill me, blah, blah, blah. And so they shelved me, meaning, we owned everything in Springfield, Connecticut, bars, restaurants, strip clubs, legitimate businesses. So by shelving me, I'm supposed to be like banned from going into those establishments. All the people that are around them are not supposed to associate with me. But the problem was I had such a big crew, and I had all the good guys around me, money guys, violent guys. And so I just branched out even more, and I went more to New York and to Boston, and it just extended my network. And I just made way more money, met, the top, I met top mafia figures, underbosses, captains and other families in New York City, in Boston. So it just put me up to the next level as far as making money. So, and I didn't have the heat of being around the mafia in my city, from law enforcement, because now the word on the street is I'm shelved. So when the law enforcement hears that, they don't look at you, and I'm free to, do whatever I want to make money.
Gotcha. Now you talked about Al Bruno, Big Al Bruno.
Mm.
Can you talk about who he was and your relationship with him in those early years?
So me and Bruno were like cousins. Him and my mother have the same cousin on my mother's side. So we always referred to me as my cousin when we went, to New York and other cities. And so he was the one. He was always at my father's store. He golfed with my father. He was a good friend with my father. My father was a legit, legitimate hard worker, but Bruno liked that. Bruno liked being around businessmen. He liked being around guys that were not in that life, that had money. He could go to them, not my father, but he could go to them and borrow money and, whatever. And so he liked that aspect. And so I got close with him. I liked his style. He was flashy type, dressed nice, drove nice cars, was always out eating dinners, nice, the best restaurants there were. He smoked cigars. Everything that he did, I liked. That's how I lived. So I was close with him, and, we were very close. And he's the one that kind of, they all wanted me into Anthony DeLabo was another one-time boss of the family. He wanted me with them. They all have, Bruno was the one that like proposed me, but they all have to okay you to be around them, and they all did. So, but Bruno was the one that I was doing most of my rackets with, in the mob rackets. He was the one I was making money with.
Gotcha. Now, like you said, you're proposed at this time. You've got several guys around you. Two guys in particular are the Gius brothers. They go along with you on a hit in New York. Can you talk about your relationship with those guys, and then how the three of you carried out this hit in New York?
So Freddie and Ty Gius, I was in prison with Ty. We're both young kids in a state prison. Young, he was like 18, I was 20, and we were around serious men, and we acted like crazy nuts in there. I mean, we were loan sharking, doing sports, fighting, and they warned us if we get in any more trouble, they're going to send them to the max. And that's what happened. Ty ended up in another fight. They sent him to the max. He was supposed to come home right after me in 91, and instead he had to do 5 more years, and all of it was in the hole. So he came out all fucked up in 96. Freddie, I met him in prison. Freddie was a prison guard at the time that we were in prison, and then he used to come up and visit them. My family used to come up, so we all met at the visiting room, and we all would have visits out there. It was a nice prison we were at, so we could our families come up, their families, and we could get together, and that's how I met them. And then when I got out, me and Freddie started hooking up, and he was morally low level, into family owned the jewelry store. He was into like people come in with credit card type stuff and things like that. I got him into more of the drug business, like the cocaine and marijuana. He didn't ever do nothing about sports gambling, loan sharking. He didn't like any of that. He used to bring me customers for that stuff. And so that's how I got them. But one thing I knew, we were all alike. We were all very violent. We were all me and Ty did prison time, but Freddie eventually did prison time. And they're the only guys around here that were capable of, committing acts of murder, that along with myself, that we could count on. And that's what we did. I was told to kill a guy in New York City, the two guys around me, Joey, Bazil, and Reno, they ran away. And they were proposed members, and they're lucky that they're alive, especially Joey Bazil. And they ran away. As soon as, you know, you mention the gun and they're going to shoot, you see how many guys are tough guys until it's time to you say, hey, here's the gun, now go shoot and kill. So they ran away. I went to Freddie and Tide. I was like asking them to let's go for dinner. And we went to New York and we shot the guy 9 times. And, you know, a few months after that, I got it formally inducted into the Mafia by the bosses in New York City. So I was like, you know, they loved us, you know, going to New York and shooting a guy on the streets of New York, you know, 9 times. You know, the bosses loved us, loved me, and obviously my crew that, you know, did it with me. And so, yeah, they, you know, that's a big thing to get made in New York City, especially by the Genovese Crime Family. They don't make guys, and especially coming from, you know, Western Mass, Springfield, to get made in New York City was a, you know, a very highest honor that you could ask for if you're looking to get into that life, which made me the most powerful guy outside of New York. You know, coming back into Connecticut and, you know, Western Mass, Central Mass, Boston, Eastern Mass, all, you know, it makes me the most powerful guy out there because I'm with the biggest, strongest family there is.
Right. Now you said you shot the guy 9 times. I think you said last time the guy ended up living. Is that right?
Yeah, we went up. He was in the car, sitting down like this. We shot him right through the window. Every shot hit him from his chest up. He's still got a couple of bullets in him. He was on a podcast speaking about it. And, you know, we thought he was dead. He went up, he yelled to his wife and said, hey, you know, and then he collapsed. The ambulance came miraculously. The next day we heard he did die, but he didn't. And he survived.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So like you said, you officially are inducted as a made man in the Genovese family. I saw you on a recent podcast you did, and you mentioned that if you could go back, you would still hustle on the street, but you would avoid getting made in the Genovese family. Why is that?
You know, because that put all the heat on me. I didn't need it. I already had a crew of guys. If somebody bothered our family, we'd go and shoot you, kill you, whatever we had to do. We didn't need the Mafia for that. The only good thing that did was it helped the networking more when it came to legitimate businesses. That's all. You know, like they had every Costco. You come up with a product, we could get into 350 stores back then. I don't know how many stores they got now, but so it was like in the legitimate aspect, and it got me you know, a position of power where when I was going to this talk with bosses in Providence or Boston, now I'm, you know, I can sit down at the table and speak with a boss directly myself because I am a boss. So that part was good. But as far as, you know, surviving on the streets, yeah, it was the worst thing that happened because now I got a flag over me, especially with the murders. You know, if I could have got made and no murders happened, yeah, I would have took it in a second. But you know, and back then murders happened. You had to shoot your way in. It's not like today where, you know, you got these guys that don't pull the trigger and they get made. Back then you had to, and I was a violent guy I had a violent crew, and so now it puts, you know, once you commit the murder, it's like running around with a flag on your back saying, you know, here I am, wherever you go. So law enforcement has a job to do, and you're the target now. You're public enemy number 1, especially me being in, you know, Western Mass, Connecticut area. So yeah, and I was making so much money. I was already a multimillionaire. I already was living, you know, going to the best restaurants, going on vacation, smoking the best cigars, drinking the best liquor. I had multiple restaurants and nightclubs and everything I had going on. I had girlfriends, I had a wife, I had beautiful kids. I mean, it was like I had everything. What did I need that for? So if I just, when I say I would go back, yeah, I would go back, make my money in the marijuana, any street rackets I could, and then put it in real estate and invest in, and just keep investing it in real estate and this and that. And I would have been worth hundreds of millions if I kept just doing that without risking any prison time. And if I did, it would have been small prison time, not life bids and death penalties.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Now you talk about, you know, once you're made, becoming the most powerful guy outside of New York, especially, you know, in Springfield. What before that, Bruno was the captain in Springfield. What led to the downfall of Al Bruno that ultimately led to him being taken out?
Bruno was a soldier. He ended up becoming boss of the Springfield faction of the Genovese Crime Family in 2001. He had a good, they liked him out in New York. New York bosses liked him. They put him in that position. Artie Nigro ends up becoming boss of the New York faction, and he controlled like the Western Mass, Connecticut, Florida factions. And that was the worst thing that could have happened. They brought a guy, John Bologna, who was a known informant. He brought him around us. He was coming up, and it just became a bad situation. They were trying to siphon money that we were making here, bring guys that were underneath, made guys here, and bring them that they had to report to New York. They were doing all dirty tactics, bad tactics. And Artie was a very greedy individual. He was told that this guy John Bologna was an informant by multiple families. And you know, he didn't, you know, we asked to clip him. We asked when we found out, and this afterwards, when we got into, you know, murders in this guy, John Bologna, you know, I asked him directly, send this guy up, we'll kill him. And he protected him. So that's pretty much what happened as far as, you know, Bruno falling out with them. Now they could say like he was drinking too much or he wasn't giving them the money. We never gave money to New York. Money never went down to New York. It started when Bruno became boss because Bruno asked to shake down a couple of guys in the Springfield area, Jimmy Santinello and Jimmy Fiore, and New York gave them permission to shake them down for $500 a week and give the money to the kids, which was me and the young guys, not even for Bruno. And then next thing you know, that ballooned up to we were extorting $50,000 a month, and Bruno was sending money down to New York. That's how that started. So once they started doing that, they figured, well, we're getting money from them here. We control everything. See, one thing about us, we controlled everything, like legitimate businesses, all the illegal businesses throughout Connecticut and Mass and Central. So we had like I call it an empire within an empire, and these greedy pieces of shit in New York wanted to take that. Not all of them, like Artie. Artie became boss because the real boss went to prison, Ernie Muscarello, and put this guy there. So that's what ended up happening. And then when he found out that Artie was using this guy, John Bologna, he even put a stop to it. He goes, what is he using? Who is this guy, John Bologna? Why is he sending him up there? You know, especially talking about murder. The guy's not even a made guy, and you're having him talk about murders with us.
So a hit gets put out on Al Bruno. It's given to you and carried out. Once he's taken out, did you feel any type of way? I mean, you said, you know, you were like cousins. Did you feel any type of way?
Of course. Like I felt, you know, sad. I didn't want to do it. So I could tell you right now, I don't give a fuck what people out there that in my area think or do not think. I didn't want to kill Al Bruno. I could say, yeah, I did. Who cares? Yeah, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to become boss. All right, let's run with that. But that wasn't the truth. The truth is I was already a made guy and already in a position that I was reporting to New York. I don't care what happens around here. No one's hired me. So I didn't need to kill Al Bruno. All these scumbags did. Felix Dringhese, John Bologna, Emilio Fusco, all the guys that the kids that are around here talk to are the one, all the enemies of Bruno, they all talk to. The Manzi family. You got Bruno's son talks to the Manzi family. Bruno and me wanted to kill the Manzi family. And the Manzi family is the ones that Bruno wanted to, you know, kill and everything. And now they all talk, you know, and naturally I'm going to get the blame because I ended up being in the position as boss, but the order never came to me. The order came to Felix Dringhese. The motive wasn't mine. The motive was Emilio Fusco. The guys behind it were Artie Nigro and John Bologna, so they could siphon the money from here down there. The guys that gave the order were Artie Nigro, Larry Dentigo, and Mario Gigante. They were the ones running the family. I got nothing to do with it all. Now, if the only reason I got involved in killing him was because Felix couldn't handle it. He's got no crew. He had idiots around him. You know, guys that like walk around with big mouths and act the part like they're like the Sopranos. You would think you're watching the Sopranos, but in reality, they never would pull a gun, pick up a gun. So how's he going to kill a guy when he's got nobody around him? And he's not even capable of doing it. So that's how I got dragged into the murder. I had to take place in it. If I didn't, I would have got killed. Bruno would have did the same thing with me. If he got an order to kill me, you know, he would have tried to speak up, which I did it the same exact way as well. But once you get an order, especially from the bosses, especially from New York, and especially the biggest crime family in the world, in America, I mean, you have to go along with it or you die.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Now, I did a video recently about a Genovese guy, Mike Cookie Derso. Did you have
Yeah.
any interactions with him?
So I never, so indirectly I did. He was running wild, very, very, tough kid out of New York, went to Florida. He was hanging around with my cousin Johnny down there. They had restaurants and he was always at the restaurant. But he was an informant. He was wearing a wire. Bruno liked him. His kid spoke Italian. Bruno spoke Italian. So there was a faction that didn't like this Mikey Derso. And there was another faction that liked him. But for him to become a made guy, you can't have a faction that don't like you. So they were trying to maneuver where Bruno was going to propose him, and they were going to get him made up in the Springfield faction, which didn't matter because he was always down in Florida. But he always and from what I heard, when Mikey Derso was wearing the wire, I guess he had it in his watch. He would always shut it off when he was around Bruno because he liked him. So he liked Bruno. We were always down in Florida. I never met him. I never had the chance to meet him, but I always heard from my cousin, that, he's got a fucking big crew and he's a tough kid and wherever he goes, people are fearful of him and good reputation. But they shot him, they left him for dead. They killed his cousin. They shot him and they left him for dead in the social club. He survived. Then they wouldn't let him kill the guys that shot him. That's how the beef came up. They were protecting the killers of his cousin and him. He was supposed to die that day. I mean, what are you going to do if somebody tries to kill you? You want revenge. You want to go kill them. So
Right.
He ended up flipping, and but we had a lot of interactions with him. He was on the 302s when Bruno was talking. His name came up. Derso's name came up when Bruno was talking to the feds in the 302s. Derso's name came up.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious about that. Now, the last time we did an interview, one comment that I saw that kept popping up was people were getting on me saying that I titled the video wrong because it said mob boss Anthony Arillotta. Can you clarify how you were considered a mob boss in Springfield?
So, all right. So before me, there was Al Bruno. He was considered the mob boss. He was a mob boss, right? Okay. Before him, there was Anthony Arillotta. And you can Google this and look at all the papers. He was called the reputed mob boss. Before him, there was Albert Babishabelli, the reputed mob boss. This is all of the Springfield faction. Before him, there was his brother, Skyball Shabelli, the reputed mob boss. Mafia boss. Just keep Googling all that stuff. Then before him, there was Big No Sam Kafari. So what people don't realize is once New York has a big family, Genovese family, but they have sections in Florida. So whoever goes to Florida and builds a family out there, they're the boss of Florida. When they get arrested, Florida authorities are going to call them reputed mafia boss of Florida. Mm-hmm. And when they come and arrest us here, they're a reputed mafia boss of Springfield, Western Mass, Connecticut faction of the Genovese Crime Family. So when I got put in that position and got made in New York City, and then Bruno got killed, I became the mafia boss for the Springfield faction, Connecticut faction of the Genovese Crime Family. So that's how I became boss.
Gotcha.
Which I was a boss of our area. I don't want to be a boss of New York. I don't want to be a boss of Philly. I want to be a boss of where I'm from. And that's what I was.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wanted you to clarify that because people kept jumping on me because, saying I titled the video wrong and all that.
Right. Well, tell them to Google it. The guys that tell you that, say, go Google it and see what the feds called me, what the newspapers called me, what, the newspapers called all their predecessors before me, so.
Yeah, I got you. So how long was your run as boss of that crew in Springfield before you got arrested?
So I consider myself, like I said, I didn't need the mafia. I went wherever I want, did what I want, hurt who I want, and made money with who I wanted. But formally in those circles from 2003 to 2010. was when, you could say that I was boss, and I got made in '03. Bruno was killed in '03. And, and like I said, I didn't live a good life after that. I was in prison. I picked up 5 indictments from '03 to '07. So I was doing a 3 to 3.5 in the state, and I was doing another 29 months with the feds concurrent. So it was like I had everything just went crazy after, I got made and all this shit happened. So it wasn't even like I had a chance. And when I did go out, I was on a curfew. I had to be home at 6 p.m. Can only go out from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it was like everything bad happened. Like everywhere I went, I had to hide and maneuver. I'm trying to murder my enemies. I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to meet people all while they're all watching me. I mean, they were putting GPSs in the cars, listening devices on everything. I mean, everything just went crazy. It was just,
Yeah. So you're ultimately arrested in 2010 and end up cooperating with the government. After you do your time, you go right back to the same area. I've heard this on multiple accounts that a lot of wise guys don't have a beef with you. And in some cases, they even embrace you. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I didn't hurt anybody around here besides the 3 guys and, that were in this area. Now, I've done business since the 80s with these people. Every crime you could think of besides murder with them, but every other crime, drug dealing, loan sharking, sports gambling, casino games, everything, beatings where people almost died. None of them got indicted with me. So, they have no beef with me personally. And the guys that did, end up in prison, I told them ahead of time what I was going to do. Say, dude, we're fucking dead. We're going to prison. We're facing a death penalty case. We got 4 witnesses against us on a murder, never mind the racketeering charges. So we're going to get 100 years if we beat the murder, no matter what. We're still going to get 100 years. So I said, let's make a deal and we'll all get out. The 3 guys, there was only 3. So, all the other people that, have something to say here, they're all wannabes. They're all, like these guys I never even heard of. I came home from prison. I never even heard of this one kid, that's, coming around and bouncing around. I never even heard his name before I went to prison. And next thing you know, he was around. He put in work. He did this. This other kid that was around me was just a nice kid. Next thing you know, he's fucking Al Capone. This other kid, next thing you know, he's this big fucking. They all come up and make up stories. And so that's the reason why you have like a lot of hatred towards me, because I can call them out on their bullshit. And so naturally, and the fact that I'm living better than them, and there's a lot of jealousy and, in human nature, it's just a lot of jealousy in life. So there's a lot of, if I was in that life and somebody came around, I would do what the real wise guys do. I would just ignore me. That's what, older, the Puglianos and somebody like that, if they see me there. But they're supposed to, in real life, if they're part of that brotherhood, why don't they kill me? So, if that's the case, why aren't they doing that? Oh, just don't talk to me. So, everybody, that life is over, especially around here. It doesn't exist. And where it does exist in the bigger cities, they're all doing legitimate businesses. They don't want nothing to do with, like, maybe some sports gambling, maybe a little loan sharking, maybe a little small drug dealing. But the most of them are doing, networking in legitimate businesses. They're in real estate, construction, the concrete industry, anything that they could get their hands on legitimately and use their influence that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you talk about calling people out. The last time we spoke, you and Joey Merlino were going back and forth through social media. And he even responded to the video that you and I did. Is that beef still going on, or has it died down?
Oh, what did he say in his response? Like
I would have to go. He just, was talking shit. He saw the video that you and I did, and his next video after our last video was put out, the next video he addressed, for like five minutes at the beginning of the video, I got to address this guy, Anthony Arillotta, and then they started talking shit,
Yeah, well, they're two junkie. They're both junkies. Joey Merlino was a cokehead. I know this firsthand from the Boston guys. When he used to come up, he was sniffing coke all the time. We all know everything that I say. He brings up fake stories about me, but you can Google the stuff about him. The family is a child molesting family. His uncle got, and this is in, if you Google it and look up his uncle, Lawrence or whatever the uncle, he was brutally fucking abusing a 13, 14-year-old girl, got her pregnant. Uh, um, the girl ended up having a baby, so he ended up forcing her to marry her, and then he had 5 kids with her, but brutally beat this girl from the time she was 14, 13, 14, up until she couldn't take it no more until 23. And this is all public. Like the shit that he says, right? He goes by lying fucking rat lowlifes around here, right? But the stuff I'm saying, just look at it. It's in newspapers about his uncle, and he knew all about what his uncle did. Finally, the poor girl had to go for help because Joey and all them okayed everything that he did, you know, like with this poor girl. She had 5 kids. And I think that's the uncle that flipped, another rat. So he was the rat, child molester, everything. Joey lived with him, okayed everything. Finally the girl had a, escape when she was 23. This poor woman. That's the moral. He's a cokehead. Joey Merlino is a cokehead. The partner's a straight out junkie. The worst junkie that I got people that were messaging me about this kid. He was the most despicable junkie in Philadelphia that you could think of. I mean, the type that would just think about the most grotesque thing that you would do to get your drug addiction fix. He would do that, just put it in those words. Yeah. And just recently he has a beef. This is how much these guys are pussies. I mean, I can't believe Joey Merlino was considered like a mafia boss. They were going to kill him back in the day too, by the way. Scarfa was going to kill him. You can Google that too. Everything that I tell you is public records. Tommy Del Giorno came out, got an order to kill Joey Merlino. Nicky Scarfa okayed to kill him.
I did a video about that not long ago.
It's all public records.
Yeah.
Now they got to be like, if I was going to invite somebody to come, like if I said, hey, I'm going to be at downtown Springfield, show up. And I'm inviting the guys to show up, right? Then I'm going to be the first guy leading the charge when they show up, and we're going to get into it. Whether it's 8 guys showing up, 1 guy, like in this case, they had 1 guy show up, and that fucking 2 little pussies didn't even approach the guy. They had other guys come up and jump the guy and punch the guy, and they ran. Oh, there he is. That just goes to show you who they are, like in he couldn't make it in the life. He can't make any money. He beats everybody around him that he does business with, whether it's illegal or legitimate business. He beats everybody. He broke every rule there was in the mafia as well. And he couldn't make it. He's a fraud if there ever was one, for him to get that name. Because there are other mafia guys there in Philly. How come they're still in the life and making money and everything like that? How come he can't? He don't know how to make any money other than rob an old lady. He robbed his the mother's jewelry. He's a scumbag. He's a lowlife. And he listens to these scumbag lowlifes around here that will send him information. And I know who the one kid is. And I'm gonna, I don't want to say anything now, but I'm going to say something about this one kid that sends him the information about his father, what his father was.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't know if there had been anything recent. I haven't.
No, I haven't heard anything. Like, you just brought it up to me now, but the current events and everything, with him inviting the kid down to the feast, and then he has other people jump him. You mean to tell me you couldn't approach the kid yourself and at least be there? Be up front.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I know what you're talking. Yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Another guy that I want to ask you about is John Red Shea.
Oh my God.
I did an interview a few months back with Kevin Weeks, who was, really close with Whitey Bulger. And he shot down a lot of Red Shea's claims that he was so close to Whitey Bulger and all that. You was telling me something about him. Can you talk about that a little bit?
And that should tell you, because the guy Kevin Weeks, I don't know him. I never met him, but he was the guy that was around Whitey. And if he's telling you that, listen, I can only tell you what I know about the situation.
Yeah, he said it was bullshit.
Yeah, of course it's all bullshit. This kid's I was going to say, he's probably the biggest fraud. You know what they used to call him when I was in prison? All the South Boston, Charlestown, the Irish kids, the gangsters from the North End, John Ratchet. He was considered a rat. He was around Whitey Bulger, the biggest informant ever in the history of organized crime. And you got this kid that's around him. He says he had no clue. It was a newspaper article that came out in 1989 saying Whitey Bulger was an informant. Right on the front page of the Boston Globe paper. Everybody in the prison system said that Whitey Bulger was an informant. You know, some guys were afraid to say it, but everybody that I was around, and I was a young kid, were all saying it. And they used to say that this kid, Ratchet, was Whitey's boy toy. Whitey liked the young boys. Don't forget, he was around Whitey when he was like 14 years old, 15, he says, right? Whitey liked the young boys. That's a guaranteed fact. And they all said that he was having, that's why the kid, there a couple people told me now, the kid is so, when he says, oh, I'd like to get my hands around him and choke him, because he was sexually abusing them. That's what they said. These are all the people coming from the area said about this piece of shit, Ratchet. And so now he comes up. Now listen what a fraud he is. Now, I would know somebody, Kevin Weeks was around Whitey Bulger. This kid said he was around Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger killed, let's just say 50 people. This kid's not in one murder ever that he was around Whitey. He never got involved in one murder. How does that happen? He was Whitey's top guy, but you never got involved in one murder about the most homicidal mafia, organized crime boss that existed, right?
No.
Then he says that he was the leader of his drug crew. They were shaking him down. Kevin Weeks went nice on him. You should have Kevin Weeks come back, because now I heard the kids bad-mouthing Kevin Weeks and really tell the truth on this scumbag. It was in the news, and all this stuff that I say is in the newspapers. The guys that got caught with the drug stuff, those guys, I believe a couple of them became informants, but those guys were the ones that were leading the drug stuff going on in South Boston. They were extorting this idiot, this Ratchet. They were extorting him. They were like, what we would do around here. Okay, you're going to either buy the drugs from us or you're going to pay us money. You're either going to sports gambling. You're either going to give us edge off or you're going to pay us money every month or a week, whatever. That's what they were doing to this punk. And then let me tell you this, right? His reputation in the state prisons was horrible. He says that he can walk with his head high and his head this. They called him a rat, and that Whitey used to have his way with him sexually. That's what his reputation, of his so-called reputation, of him being now, let's just say out of his own mouth and his own life, right? Now, I became a notorious mob figure. My life, I'm here talking to you. I've been on 100 podcasts. This guy's life of crime. He said he got arrested in 1990. He was 20 years old. That's his life of crime. Whenever he started, he sold a few kilos of coke. I'm not even a cocaine dealer, and I sold 100 times more cocaine than this idiot. He said he was bringing it from, he wrote a book. If this guy could write a book about his life and crime, no murders, around the biggest informant that he knew in the history of war, and he's saying he didn't know about it, and he could write a book, every single gangbanger out there, and those guys are 100 times more gangster than he is, because those guys are carrying guns, shooting guns, selling drugs, living. So if he wrote a book, billions of other kids out in the world can write books. If this clown wrote a book, nobody believes his story. He comes across as I think he's got wet brain, because they say, like, when his father was a drunk, he was a drunk and a junkie too, on drugs and everything. But I think it got passed down to him, because he talks like he's got wet brain when he talks. It really does. And I'm not making fun of him, but everybody I talk to says the same thing. He talks funny, slurred speech. He talks like he's drunk. He talks like he's got, like he's drunk, and he tries to he knows the cameras are on him. He tries to overemphasize, if I could get my hands around Whitey, and he tries to listen what a clown he is. There was a guy that did a podcast with me, and I let him stay at my house for a week. And then after my house, he was going to Ratchet's house. And on the phone, he was on the phone with Ratchet like a couple of times a day. Ratchet didn't say a word about me. Ratchet said, "Oh, you know, Anthony was a boss." All nice things. Never said a bad word. Okay. He told them, you know, Anthony used to be a boss, blah blah blah, but he never said anything bad. Knew the kid was coming, guy that was coming to my house. Knew he was staying at my house, and then he was going to go to Ratchet's house and stay at his house. I mean, stay there. I don't even think he let him stay the night. This fucking scumbag low life, right? So, anyways, everything is good. Doesn't say anything. Now he sees a chance to, you know, get on some YouTube channels, you know, maybe, and all of a sudden he gets around that fucking low life Merlino. Merlino says, "Oh, the guy did an interview with me. You can't hang around him." That's when he cut ties with the guy. So he had to take. So he wouldn't do it on his own, you know, you know, intuition of saying, you know, integrity, his own integrity, based on the guy that he had to listen to a little punk jockey lowlife Joey Merlino to tell him, and that's when he cut ties with the guy. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, the kid, listen, all I know is I was in prison with some very serious Irish kids, tough, crazy bank robbers, armored car robbers, Italian. They all said that this kid Ratchet is a piece of shit, worst reputation you could come up. He was an informant with Whitey, knew everything about what he was doing, and that Whitey used to have his way with him sexually. That's what they said.
Yeah, I'll have to try to find where you said he was talking shit about Kevin Weeks. I'll have to look into that.
Somebody told me that. I didn't hear it. Somebody told me, you know, because I don't listen to all the podcast stuff, but somebody said that he was on a show recently and he was calling him, you know, Kevin 2 weeks. You know, that's his line, you know, one for the camera, Kevin 2 weeks, how he talks, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, that's just his, he plays the theatrics for the camera, what code, and he had to beg. So the guy that was going to do the podcast with me, he got him onto the bigger platforms out in California, you know, like the Vlad and the soft white underbelly type of things like that. And then after he took advantage of him on that, that's when he dumped him because Joey Merlino told him to dump him. He's a punk. He's a straight out. And then on top of it, so his career, let's just say he had a career. Then he said he's a boxer. When did you box? You went to prison at 20. I boxed too. I'm a great boxer too. I boxed, right? So he goes to prison at 20, scared to death, said he faced how do you face a life sentence for drugs? So he gets 12 years, right? He comes out of prison, and as they all do, because they can't make money on the streets without, you know, and back then you can make money with coke, even with marijuana and this and that, but he can't make money. He's a fucking fool. The only thing he can do, I got a connection in Florida that robbed him to begin with. Then he says some bullshit story. He robbed the guy to get it back and blah, blah, blah. But his career lasted until he was 20. What kind of fucking career is that? And you're going to write a fucking book and act like you were the closest guy to Whitey Bulger? Yeah, you were close to him because you were an informant just like him. And they all say it. Everybody that I was in state prison with, they have no respect for that dude.
Damn. Well, man, last question, man, before we wrap up. We spoke a few times on the phone, and in one conversation, you said to me to throw whatever questions at you because
bro.
You said because you were at peace with your past.
Yes.
What does that mean to be at peace, and how did you get there?
Okay, so you got to understand where the life I lived. I'm living a great life. I'm eating at, like I said, I'm just pretend a billionaire's life that he's living. I could do anything a billionaire can do, except I don't own my own private jet, but I could still fly to any island they can. I could still go to any restaurant that they can. I could still smoke the best cigars like they can. I can still drink the best wine, the best liquors. I can still have a beautiful woman. I can still own businesses. So I'm living all that type of life. And I have 3 beautiful kids, right? I have a wife, 3 beautiful kids. I have girlfriends. I'm living like a king, right? I'm living like you can't believe how good I'm living. And then the Mafia comes, and next thing you know, I get around a bad bunch in New York, a bad one guy. two guys, John Bologna and Artie Nigro. And now we're involved in murders and all that stuff. And then next thing you know, it's all going to be taken away. But I don't want it to be taken away. I love my life. I love hustling the streets. I love, walking into a place and having people have to respect us. Not because we're Mafia. But listen, I had more respect without the Mafia. I walk in now and I got more respect when I walk into these places, especially when I walk in with a few guys, so. But anyways, that's all going to be taken away from me, and it's going to be taken away from me the rest of my life. I don't want to surrender. I don't want to go that route. And so that's where you could say which is, I look back and that's the brainwashing. Like if, somebody tells you you're definitely going to prison the rest of your life, 100% you're going to prison, or 80 years if you beat some couple of murders, right? And they tell you, but you can get out of it. But you can get out of it. And you're thinking like, what? I can get out of that? So that's what I'm trying to say. It was like getting through and getting to be okay with all that stuff, going from one life to another. Then I go to prison and I get very knowledgeable on self-help books, philosophy. I read so many good books. And, you're in solitude. And I had my own cell. I was able to read, work out, stay to myself a lot, and just get a ton of knowledge in me. And as you're processing all that knowledge, you don't get it overnight, but the more and more you keep doing it, you absorb it, and then it finally becomes you. So now I had to come home and deal with my old crowd that I dealt with and that I did crime my whole life, hurt a lot of people's families, was around, whether given murders or beatings and all that type of stuff. So now I got to come home and deal with them. If I went to any other place, it's like I put my past behind me and it doesn't exist. But I came home and faced it because I have children that I came home to, that I wanted to, connect with and be part of their life. So it took a little bit of time. I wasn't okay with everything. You get angry at certain things and blah, blah, blah. But as time goes on, it took a few years. But yeah, I'm okay with everything in my life now. Everything. The fact that, I went in prison with this, I came out without this. I went in with a wife and, girlfriend. I came home with, nothing with businesses, nothing with a group of. And let me just tell you this. The guys around here, I had quantity over quality. Now I have quality over quantity. The guys I got around me now I would put the guys around me now, if it came to violence, 10 times more violent than the guys around here. And they're all good people, but it's just that they're not crazy enough to go to that next level and pick up the guns for some guy in New York telling you to go shoot the guy and blah, 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 blah. But these guys around me now are quality. They're good. It's a true friendship now. Not like before when you got some drug addict coming around you because he wants to get his button. He still wants to get made, this drug addict. So when you got guys coming around you because of the position of who you are, oh, he's a mafia guy. I want to be around him. Oh, maybe he can make me money, or maybe he can get me made in the mafia. Things like that. Now I have people that aren't looking for that. We're looking to make money together. And however we can do that and excel in life and, and do good and better in life. Not just for me, we got children, for my kids. I like to leave, help my kids out if any way I can.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to hear, man. Well, Anthony, man, tell people where they can go get a copy of your book and and also your wine.
So the wine is online, pozzo.com if you go, but the link is in my Instagram. And if they want a signed bottle from me directly, just DM me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Send me a direct message. I'll send you the wine. I've been selling people wine all over the country, California, Arizona, everywhere. So if they want a signed bottle from me, anything else, the book and everything, just you can direct message me on Instagram, Facebook. It is online. And I've been doing it. I don't mind doing it either. So it's like, I don't mind shipping it out and and whatever. They're gonna get it online anyways from there. I know we signed 100 bottles. I think we're already out of the signed bottles at the winery. I mean, it's been selling like crazy, and the people love the wine. If you're a wine drinker, you're gonna love this wine. The Cabernet is like on the levels with like an Opus One, Insignia, Joseph Phelps. You know, it's on Silver Oak. It's like on a, and it's only $50 a bottle. These other ones are like $300-400 a bottle.
Yeah.
And I give discounts for cases too. I sell cases. I give them discounts and everything.
Okay. Yeah, we'll put the links down in the description. And as far as the book, can they get that directly from you? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Amazon. It's look up. It's one of the best sellers on Amazon, and they can get that from me too. In fact, I got a copy here. I got a bunch of hard copies and the soft covers.
All right, man. Anthony Arillotta, I appreciate you coming back on the channel, man, and talking with me.
Always my pleasure. Good to see you again. Your show was great, and you're one of the better ones moving up. I see you going places.
I appreciate you saying that, man.
Yeah, really.
Oh, appreciate that. All right, guys. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to get a copy of Anthony's book, South End Syndicate. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and keep following American Made. I appreciate it.